back in DayZ. We're on Xbox, and it's now on Xbox Game Pass. Keep in mind that it won't be on Game Pass forever, so at some point, that will be void. Anyways, so a lot of the questions and or notes that I've been seeing are people in regards to having problems joining the game or joining a server. So in the game, there are two server types. There are public ones, so these are the regular, generic, vanilla versions of DayZ. These are what you traditionally play on. And then about actually a year ago at this point, they added these custom servers. So these are like the player-run servers. These are things you can rent through Nitrado, and I do have videos up on that process. But past that, so that's where you're going to be able to play the game. The regular public servers are going to be too full because nobody's going to understand. You just easily tab over to the the private ones and join in there. So those ones are usually fairly limited because it is very expensive to get one, and I'm sure they are experiencing a huge overload of users due to this. So most servers are about 10 player caps, whereas the public servers have 60 player lobbies, but like I said, everybody's going to be going into those. So what you need to do is you need to filter maybe even low to high, but high to low, and keep going along until you get one that is high or lower, because those are the ones you're going to be able to join. And if there's a queue, any queue at all, that's more than I guess 1 or 2 players, whenever you're willing to wait, leave and play in a different server. You don't have to wait in that one. It's stupid too. Okay, so I'm kind of doing this because I have seen an influx of questions specifically about this, and yeah, that's just because there's a lot of new players checking it out on Game Pass, which is great to see. I'm glad people have been jumping in and giving this game a whirl now, because it has kind of been dying out quite a bit. Yeah, we're not sure about the future of the game due to some behind-the-scenes developer-wise, this game being kind of lowered in terms of development time. So moving past that aspect of it, seriously, just there's all these filtering things on the right hand side. You just use the triggers, you just go over, and then you can actually adjust the filter settings for what kind of server you want to look for, and that's how you're going to be able to find less popular servers. And I think the community ones are going to be the way to go for quite a while, until this initial craze of people jumping into DayZ dies down, because it is kind of tiring to try to find a good PvP thing. Because I joined this server here, and I'm not even going to share what it is, but it's just one that was supposed to be high loot and stuff, so that's kind of not the case here. And I'm not used to playing this because I have been playing the intense modded ones where you are constantly kind of doing PvP contact, or contact is a good word for that, but there's the conflict of PvP. I also want to go over brief details, so this might be something slid into the middle of the video. We're talking about server jumping and changes. So you have the same server gear when you are in the public servers. If you join another server other than the one you were in prior, you will spawn in a random part of the map, which will basically almost kill you every time because you won't have the supplies needed in order to keep playing. Just keep that in mind. Joining the same server in a public server will make sure you're in the same spot, same loot. If you jump from a game in a regular map like this to a Livonia server, your gear is kept, but you will spawn in a random spot in Livonia, and when you come back to the main map here at Chernarus, you will spawn in a random spot. But you will keep your gear towards the spots, because a lot of people play Chernarus to grab rain gear, because you need that when you go into Livonia, and you just kind of spawn somewhere random in Livonia. It's a little bit more fair for the spawns. If you are in a private server, or a modded server, your gear is only kept within that particular server, and you cannot take that gear into a public server. They're separate servers. So I hope that kind of breaks that down, because I did also see a lot of questions in regards to how that kind of works out. Anyways, so now we're going to talk a little bit about what the servers can do. So the public servers, again, very much vanilla DayZ. Regular DayZ, that's the stuff where it's survival, where the food meter's really aggressive.
Hello.
Oh great, there's
How
guys. I don't want to deal with them right now.
Hello.
Oh jeez, new
Hello.
players. I don't want to interact with them because I'm trying to do something.
Hey. Hi.
Yeah, I'm trying to do some video content here, guys. Piss off. Anyways, now that we've walked away from those guys.
You need help? Hey, back off.
Alright, we're fighting to the death. Get back here. I don't even care. Now I'm totally thrown off topic on this. What did I say? I said leave me alone, but no, you gotta bother me. You always gotta keep bothering me. Now you're dead, and I'm gonna skin you. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly use my cloth, and I do have to skin these guys because they might get back up because I just kind of knocked them out. But yeah, so in the game, the modded servers, or like what I like to call them because they have that now. So when the servers originally launched as community servers, you didn't get a whole lot of options. I ran for one for quite a while, and you didn't really get much out of it. But now they have the ability to add mods, and you can very well, you know, kind of make it whatever you want. So there's a lot of different options. We got things such as the ability to you know, create higher loot counts, such as more weapons, more like things spawning, food and everything like that, adjusting the mechanics in regards to the survival aspects, you know, how much food you need, how much water you need. You can change the day, and they always had day and night cycles, so I always used a short night cycle because nobody wants to deal with that stuff. But anyways, you know, that's what you're kind of looking for. So when you are looking in those lists, it's also advised that you kind of read what the descriptions are for each of the different servers out there. So you got to look at how many players can be in a server, because even though it says high, it's very likely that a number of them are going to be filled with people, just due to how many people are playing the game right now, which is obviously, you know, causing some backlog problems. And you also got to read what the servers have, because servers can also be lying. There's no checks in place to see, you know, what a server has to offer, what it has to supply. So even if it says something like, oh, airfield mods and all that, blah blah blah, it could be a pretty empty world like the one I'm in right now. So some of them are more trustworthy than others. You'll usually see those at the top because everybody wants to get into them. If you are looking for just fast-paced action, because like I said, there's regular DayZ where you're just kind of surviving, you're doing your thing. And then there's also the DayZ where it's modded, where you spawn on, say, the prison island. That is a good hotkey to kind of look for. That's more like high-octane, picking up guns, shooting one another, and it's just mindless violence there. It's not actual DayZ content. But a lot of people want to check out that version of DayZ, and that is present there. There's also a lot of ones that offer the, I guess it's kind of the Northwest Airfield NWAF. That one is also going to be one that is a lot of action. So you can go to the actual airfield there. It's a bit of a larger area, so it's a little bit less laggy when the actual conflict kind of happens, and you can enjoy that version of the game if you want. So it's kind of Prison Island. There's definitely going to be more performance issues because everybody's kind of in a compact space, whereas the airfield is going to be a bit of a larger area. So you should also notice on the left hand side of the servers, there's going to be like, some of them are going to have mouse and keyboard combinations. So those are the ones that actually allow players to put in their mouse and keyboard and control the game using that. So be wary of that, because people that use the mouse and keyboard on this game obviously have a massive advantage over the controller users. And you can join in if you just have a controller. So be wary of that aspect. Now that being said, if you're wondering about keyboard users jumping into regular controller lobbies, they can't do that. So the game is set up to understand the inputs, so that's not a problem there if you're just joining a regular server that doesn't have the icon on it, just so you are well aware of that aspect of the little icon. Again, on the left-hand side beside where all the server names and titles are featured. Great. So there's also hardcore. So hardcore in the title means that it's first person only. So the game is usually played in third person, where you can tap in the right stick and you can go into first person. The hardcore ones are going to force you to just be a first person game. Easy enough to understand and easy to kind of go through. And then there's other servers where it's like regular DayZ, and they have like lots of guns in that. And you read that in the descriptions, and some of them have Discord channels, and those ones you can usually look up a little bit more of what they offer. Just keep in mind, the mods aren't really too in-depth in the game, like I mentioned. It's more about changing how you're able to survive, the loot economy in the game, the days and the nights, and generally adjusting how many players can be in the lobby at once. And it's usually 10, again, due to the high costs associated with actually having a server, because they're not cheap at all. They're very expensive, and kind of not affordable for a lot of people. And if you are wondering if the game is like a solo player experience, it's not. This is a multiplayer game. There's no offline, nothing like that. It's not meant to be an offline game. I could see the appeal as to why people would want that, but that's not what the game is. It's a bit of a social experiment to some degree in dealing with the hostile nature of people in the game, but that's generally the gist of it. I hope this kind of helped, even though we had a bit of a distraction with those guys coming in here and me having to slice and dice them because they were annoying me. Yeah, again, talking in-game, you can do that, and maybe you should do that, but people really are going to be a little bit more dangerous right now because there's a lot of newcomers that don't really understand the game and all that, whereas the older players will usually kind of chat with you. They won't necessarily kill on sight unless you are in a server where it is a deathmatch experience, because that is going to be kind of expected that there is that conflict in the game. And a lot of servers will say they're PvE servers. That's really not something I would believe. I mean, they might enforce that, but there's not really a whole lot of people necessarily watching over those servers. So just because they say that they are going to be that kind of experience doesn't mean they actually are that. So it's about reading them, trying them. Don't wait in queues, because you don't have to. There will be servers open. I don't know why people would just sit there for 25 minutes and be like, oh, this isn't right for this game. Because, I mean, there's no games like that where they make you wait that long. Obviously, you should use a little bit of logic when kind of looking into that sort of thing for a game prior to, I don't know, kind of complaining, I guess you could say, because I am seeing a lot of those notes, and it's just slightly tiring to deal with because we have to do this every so often when they do something with it. I am glad that it's on Game Pass. We do have a lot of DayZ content for guides and things like that. If you want to check it out. Oh, it looks like somebody blew up the gas station over there. That's kind of cool. But yeah, it's a neat game. It definitely has its moments. Definitely is a different sort of title with a good amount of difficulty to it at times. But yeah, it also seems like they've improved the regeneration of health on this one. Not too high, but to a degree that makes it a little bit easier for me to survive. But yeah, if you do have questions about servers and stuff, let me know, and I'll try to go over those too, because people do need help to be surviving in this game. I thought that door was closed. Was that door not closed? Ugh, this is not good. And all the zombies are trapped, so now I don't have to deal with any of them. Huzzah! I live another day in DayZ.